Hi, my dragons. Good to see you. So today we're going to go over two assessment tools. One is the mini mental state exam. Both of them are neurological. For those of you who are doing these or have a relative who may have had a stroke or someone who's just growing older, or someone who's had a head injury in the past or something like that. These are really good, quick tests, not too hard. One is more complex than the other, but still very good indicators of neurological functioning. So the first one I'm going to go over is the MMSE. It looks like this. The mini mental state exam. Okay. Now I'm giving you one that is a printed off one. I have some of these other ones printed off. They're almost exactly alike. So if you're going to use this week, I would go ahead and use the one that I post, simply because I don't have this one scanned in yet. It's just a very slight difference. If you want to wait for this one, that's fine, but really it doesn't really matter which one you use. They're both pretty much the same. So the mini mental state exam, I'm also going to give you a handout about the literature in back of it, okay? So it's a really easy way to assess cognitive functioning. Now, it's interesting because it's been used in VA hospitals, it's been used in stroke trauma centers, it's been used in regular hospitals, all of that sort of thing. It's the one that they gave to President Trump to assess cognitive functioning at Walter Reed. So anyway, the top score that you can get is a 30, and you can break that up to 15 and below would be, normal functioning, and 15 and above would be, impairment. So when you sit down and you give this person the test, you're going to have to, and you have to give it to them, because the test itself has the scoring on it. You don't want them to see that. So this is something that you will orally have to, ask them to do, and then record their responses. I would like to see you put some sort of barrier or separation between you so they can't see the scoring thing. Or you can print it up differently so that you can just give it to them and see what they're going to do. But it's better to see if they're struggling, especially if you know that they've had a head injury or some post-traumatic stress thing or stroke or something like that. So the first thing you should do is, can I give you a memory test? And if they say yes, then ask them again, have you noticed any trouble with your memory at all? And do record those two responses, because that's the beginning of this whole thing. So then it's kind of interesting to see, because I think some of the ones on here are a little interesting. Next week we're going to do one test. It's very long, and I think it's kind of involved, but I think you'll like it. It's pretty easy, pretty good. So the MMSE breaks tasks up into orientation to time, orientation to place, registration, attention, calculation. I'm doing mine here. Yours is a little different that I'm going to post. Recall, naming, repetition, comprehensive reading, writing, and then drawing. This one does orientation to time, to place, immediate recall, attention, spelling, delayed verbal recall, naming, repetition, 3-stage commands, reading, writing, copying. Okay, so they're almost exactly the same. Okay, so what you're going to do is, if the person responds correctly, you're going to give them a score of 1, and there's 30 different items that they have to do. I've seen this thing work really well, and I've seen this thing be able to trigger places in the brain that are associated with different tasks, like verbal or motor or something like that. So it's quite interesting. I told you the story about how my uncle got this in the hospital, and I was like, oh, and they're giving the MMSE. They asked him how old he was, and he couldn't remember how old he was, but then later on during the testing, he started singing 76 trombones, a song, and of course that's how old he was. So it was really interesting, and there are a lot of different times when verbal skills are compromised, but patients can sing, comes from a different part of the brain, but can sing what they want to say. So that's always really pretty fascinating. So orientation to time is like, you're asking them what's the year, the season, the month of the year, the day of the week, and the date, okay? During COVID, a lot of us have this blur about what day it is, what day of the week it is, what's the date anyway. So that's kind of interesting. Orientation to place. Where are we? What's the state, the city, the town, the country, the building, what floor are you on? Okay. So in a hospital, someone might be moved around so many times that they don't even know, you know, what floor they're on or what their room number is. And then if it's something that's happened where they had to have been transported by ambulance, they may not know where they are. They may not know the particular hospital's name or something like that. And they may have been moved, or they may have been told, and then they forgot, indicating some neurological issues as well, okay? Then registration, you're going to ask them to say 3 words. The one on the test that I'm going to give you has 3 different words, okay? That doesn't make any difference which words they are, but they're just 3 words. The attention and calculation, I think this one's interesting because you ask the individual to count backwards by 7 from 100. So if you're not really good at fast math, that might be difficult, okay? Then you're going to ask them to spell a word. So the word is world, and for every letter that they get, you give them a point, okay? Then you're going to ask them to recall the words that you just told them a little bit ago. And then you're going to hold up a pencil or a pen and say, what is this? Okay? And then you're going to do it again, like point to a watch or point to some other object. What is this? If they can get it right, you give them points for that. Repetition, you say, now I'm going to ask you to repeat what I say, no ifs, ands, or buts. And they should say, no ifs, ands, or buts. And then you give them a score for that. And then comprehension, you're going to ask them to do a task, how to fold a paper. That should be pretty simple for them to do, but sometimes they can hear it but not know how to do it, or maybe not even understand, especially if you've had a stroke or something, head injury or something like that. And then you're gonna look at their reading. So again, you have to have someone who's literate. So I'm going to show you a sentence. I want you to read it and do what it says. And this sentence says close your eyes, and they should close their eyes, okay? And then you're going to ask them to write a sentence, and that's it. 1 sentence. What you're looking for there is, are they going to write a sentence, a complete sentence? Is it nonsensical? What is it? And if they still look at you like, I don't know what you're asking of me, you can say something like, give them 1 little prompt. Write a sentence about the weather. Or anything, okay? It doesn't matter what the sentence is about as long as it makes sense, okay? And you're going to give them a score for that. And then there's a design for them to copy. The design looks like, see, here's the thing that says close your eyes that you want to give them on the paper. Close your eyes, which is looking backwards in the video. That's not meant to show them the right one, okay? And then here's the image that they have to copy and create it. So I found that particularly hard because I'm not a good drawer anyway. So, you know, this is where you can ask someone in the family, are they a good drawer? So if an architect doesn't draw it well, then you're in trouble. So that's the MMSE. Pretty fast, pretty easy. The next one is the NFI, the Neurobehavioral Inventory. So this is one that is really good because you're looking at not only what the patient is saying about themselves, the deficits that they may or may not notice. I really like this exam because it's not only a measure of what the patient is saying, there's also, I'm going to give you one, it looks just like this, it's called the family form. So then the people who are closest to the individual, who have been seeing how the individual is acting in their particular situation, do they know what they're doing, do they have memory loss, do they have things that they forget, what's going on with them. So I'm going to give you all these forms, but I'm going to show you. So I took the liberty of doing this test on myself. I did not take the liberty of having anyone close to me score me. So that's up to you if you do that. It looks exactly the same. It's exactly the same questions, except it says he does this or she does that. And they're scoring exactly the same way that the patient themselves did. So the first score is the patient form, and the test itself has, I think it's 76 different questions, okay? So they're asking all these questions, and the person is scoring their agreement or disagreement. And the first one is 1 rarely, 2 means never, 1 means never, 2 means rarely, 3 means sometimes, 4 means often, and 5 means always. So they're looking at this, whatever question you're asking them, and they're rating how often this happens to them. So they're filling in on these little squares either a 1 to 5 agreement from never to always. And so there's 76 of them. And on the scoring sheet, it's just like one of the other ones that you did, where they, well, the score is right here. If you look here, there's a whole bunch of them. And these on each column here, there's like different columns. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different columns that look at neurological behavior. So the first one is depression, the second one is somatic, the third one is memory and attention, the fourth one is communication, the fifth one is aggression, and the last one is motor. And all the items are numbered, so it's pretty easy for you to figure that out. And so it's very easy. Then you just go and you look at the different, there's a subtotal box at the bottom. So for all the ones for depression, they would have a box. So number 7, you put in the score, and then number 13, number 4, number 25, and number 2, and then you add them all up for this particular sheet. Then on the second sheet are questions 35 to 76, okay? And it's the same thing. You're adding them all up. The sheet itself is telling you which ones indicate somatic or memory or recall. And then at the bottom, you have the total from side 1, the total from side 2, and then the complete total. Okay, so that will give you a score from questions 1 through 34 and a score from questions 35 to 78. And then you just add them up and you have the total of the raw scores, okay? That's your raw score total. So then, having your handy dandy ruler, which I'm looking for the form, and I can't find, oh, here they are. I'm going to give you these tables. I hope the tables are, I have a copy of them that is on the computer that I can send you. Here's the tables that say the T-scores and the percentile for all of the scores that you just added, okay? And again, go through these, look at the top. So the first page here says, well, it's really the last page, ages 45 plus, okay? Let me flip it over, and you have to find the person's age for the right table. Okay, so this table is ages 17 to 24, okay? And it'll have the raw score that they got, then the T-score, then the percentile. So you need your handy-dandy ruler to look up what's the raw score, and then go across and see what's the T-score, and then what's the percentile score. And that's really easy to do. So then you'll have a profile sheet, which is right here, profile sheet, which looks at the raw score. So you're putting all the raw scores in for each of those things: depression, memory, attention, communication, aggression, and motor. So those are all the raw scores up at the top. Then you'll have the percentile from the sheets, and then the T-score. So here's how it gets charted. It goes from 0 to 100. So 100 would be significant neurological deficits. And like I said, these are my scores. So you could decide whether you wanted to do low, medium, and high. I did just low and high. And the 50% mark was, 0 to 50 was low, and 51 and above was high. And then you have this chart so that you can measure where the person scored, okay? So I'm looking at mine, and my scores are all, the only one I scored over 50, and it was only 52, was aggression. So actually, I compared this to how I did this test a few years ago. Things have improved, so that's a good thing. When you get older, that's a really interesting thing. So if you wanted to keep this and see how you're doing in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and on, that's really kind of cool. So also, you could do this, you're doing this with a family member too, so you could see the difference of the charting between what the patient sees themselves as and then what the family sees themselves on. And it's a very easy to glance the difference between the two of them. So everything else that I had was, below that 50%, so I have no problem. And my memory stuff is still good, in case you're wondering. So it's how they feel now. It's not how they are in general, it's how they feel now. So that can be tricky because, it's that one of the questions is, do you swear a lot? Hey, I'm from the East Coast. So this is something that's like out of the ordinary. So, okay, I'm going to stop this here. And if you have any questions, give me a call. Great day to be a dragon.